Cadence. What is it? How can it help us? And what do we do about it? Cadence, simply defined, is the amount of steps that we are taking in 1 minute. We can simply measure it by going out for a run and counting how many times your right foot hits the ground in 1 minute. Take that number, multiply it by 2, and you get a number that most people will call cadence. Now, what is the big deal with cadence? Well, cadence is a reflection of the relationship between our stride length and our pace. So for example, if I'm running a very fast pace and I have a really short stride length, the stride length is how the distance I'm taking between each step. If I have a really short stride length, then my cadence will naturally be really high. In order for me to take short steps and run really fast, I have to move my legs really quickly. The inverse is also true. If I to go out and run a really slow pace, but I'm taking really long steps, in order for me to run slowly, if I'm taking long steps, my cadence has to be really slow. Well, let's talk a little bit about what cadence really means. How does it actually benefit us? Well, whenever we load our legs when we run, whenever we go out and run, and every step we take, we load the muscles in our legs, and then whenever we push off back behind us, we use that energy kind of like a spring and to push back off behind us. If you guys have ever used a diving board before, you'd get on a diving board, you'd push down on the diving board, and you use the spring to be able to jump up and forwards. And depending on how heavy you are, how far out away are you on the diving board, where you set the fulcrum can determine how much of it, like a spring, you can use. If you have ever tried jumping off a diving board and you jumped either too early or too late, and some of us have probably done that before, you're going to feel like the spring is actually working against you a little bit. Whenever we are running, the same can also be true. Whenever we take a step, we are trying to use the right timing of how quickly we should be contacting the ground to toeing off. That timing will determine on how well we are utilizing our spring or how poorly are we utilizing the spring. And so whenever we're talking about cadence, we're really trying to talk about and try to help people figure out how do we be able to use our musculotendinous system as effectively as possible. Most people that when they go out and run, recreational runners, will try to adopt cadences that are too low for them. And the reason we do that is because there's this energy efficiency curve. Whenever I go out and start running, depending on how much stiffness I have in my legs, what the elastic recoil is, I will use a certain amount of energy for me to run a certain pace. And most people will try to opt for the least amount of energy usage. And so whenever that happens, typically the cadence ends up being a little lower. There are some problems with this because whenever we're running lower cadences, we are typically biasing the joints over the muscles. So and we'll see this specifically at the knee. There's been a lot of good research with cadence in the knee. If we take somebody with a really low cadence with some knee problems and we increase their cadence, which will bias their musculotendinous system a little bit more, that offloads their knee joints and allows them to be able to run a little bit better with less knee pain and using their muscles a little bit better. So whenever we take a runner and we have somebody with less cadence, we want to try to see if we can gradually build up the cadence to where it is optimal for you. The way we do this is we build it up very slowly. We want to go at about 5 to 10% increase. So let's hypothetically take a runner who's running 150 steps per minute. A 5 to 10% increase would be about 7 steps per minute up to 15 steps per minute. And we do that for about a month. Over time, your body is going to adapt to that change. The amount of stiffness in your legs, the way that your elastic recoil happens in the muscles is going to change and adapt to where it'll be a lot more comfortable at that range. And typically it'll take anywhere from about 2 weeks up to about a month, sometimes longer depending on who you are. But most of the time about a month is sufficient. So we go for about a month at that new increased cadence, and then what we do is we gradually increase it again by about 5 to 10%. So if you're at 165, you're going to increase it by somewhere between 8 steps per minute up to 16 steps per minute. And again, you do that for about a month. And what you're going to do is you're going to gradually increase that up to a point where you are in your optimal range depending on how long your legs are, how heavy you are, how big your feet are, how stiff your muscles are. Will determine where that optimum cadence is for you. But if you are below 170 steps per minute, chances are you're probably going to want to increase your cadence slowly over time to get somewhere above that range when we're running. I hope you guys found this video beneficial. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you guys are interested in our coaching services or in our running specific evaluations, feel free to check that out in the description below. I hope you guys have a great day.